Hey, everybody. Really excited to speak with Matt today, who just broke into Deal. Awesome job. I know you're coming in from Canada as well, which is cool to see. Maybe setting the stage of your background, where you were at before looking at tech sales, and we'll start to break it down from there.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. And, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I was a recent grad out of university, testing different careers, seeing what kind of stuck. Got an opportunity to work in the media marketing industry, which was really rewarding, really cool. I got to develop a lot of transferable skills, but I never had sales at the thought at the time. I definitely wanted to try something more data analytics, something I'd be working with numbers, maybe the end goal of that being like a Google or Amazon working in like analytics or something adjacent to that. In that role, I got to partner a lot with salespeople, and I kind of saw the similarity in how I would prefer a job like that, working with people, building relationships, and then obviously, the income potential, and got me looking into tech because, when you're younger, I was definitely interested in that field. But if you're not a software engineer or whatnot, you're probably thinking, oh, how do I get into tech, right? And you're near university in that time, the SDR part of it was not really like as popular as it is now. So I was never aware of that. And, I was on YouTube kind of exploring different careers, different things, different courses, came across you guys and watched a couple of videos about the industry. Just wanted to make sure knowing everything about it and all the companies and income. And then after that, it was set, man. I was ready to go in and just get the grind going.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I love to hear that. Obviously, love to hear you're getting a lot of value out of the YouTube as well. Maybe a question there. You mentioned you're looking at YouTube, you're looking at different courses, different programs out there. What ultimately, I guess I'd be curious if you can share like who you considered and what ultimately went into the decision to say, hey, higher levels is the best fit for me.
Sure. Yeah. So I definitely considered a few. I was 100% transparency. I actually wanted to get my feet wet first. So I went into the interview processes, kind of taking from your guys' YouTube, maybe some guys like Trent Dressel, Matt McNamara. I took little bits from everyone and wanted to get into the hiring process. And can I make this work without a course? And I made it to the final round with one company. Wasn't successful in that, but I kind of knew, okay, at least I have the framework. Just what else is missing, right? So then I started going more into looking into the course careers, found you guys, saw like all the testimonials of the companies and decided, yeah, that's enough for me. You guys provided so much value on the YouTube channel, like, and that's free content, right? And I kind of saw that and took that as if this is free content, then the course definitely has infinitely more value than that. So it was a no-brainer from that point.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Obviously got a great result too. So we're super excited to see that. Maybe just for people's reference too, if there's one or two things that come to mind, obviously there's a lot of great information on YouTube, no doubt. Is there one or two things in the higher levels community specifically that really helped you kind of get over the edge?
Oh, plenty, man. But I definitely say the weekly calls were absolutely incredible. So for me, my resume on paper was probably strong for the time of transferable skills, but going for an ATS system, like there would be nothing. So the weekly calls were good at optimizing my resume to go through an ATS properly. But then also the calls with Ben on how to prospect in a company is like completely from scratch. So there's a process of, like an email, then LinkedIn, maybe call, like you kind of get in your rhythm. And you don't really get that when you're outside of a course. Like maybe you watch a YouTube video and then someone tells you that, but having that all kind of centralized in one course where anytime I'm like, okay, maybe this didn't work out. What can I try differently? I can go back in the course. Maybe I can jump on a call. Maybe work for someone else. And there's always that community as well that we always can bounce ideas off each other. One guy gets in one company and shares what worked for him. That's what it should all be about. And yeah, that's definitely the number one part of the course that sold it for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I know you had some great interviews at great companies, and we're talking even before we started recording about some of the learnings that you had along the way. Maybe we break this up into a few parts, but specifically looking at getting noticed for interviews and maybe that first round recruiter type of interview. Any advice you'd give to anyone out there that's trying to really get noticed, get consistent interviews, and crush that first round?
Yeah, for sure. Number one thing I would definitely say, treat every interview like you're doing the job. So it's not rocket science. I'd say like the course has the CRM Excel tracker for me, which was awesome, but you can even do that on your own, just keeping like all of your leads, all your countries, companies that you're interested in kind of organized. If you can vet out the hiring managers, make sure that's all there. And the thing I noticed like now in my role is we talk internally if people, do that outreach. Like it's not common for guys, maybe even if they have sales experience, and mostly even I'm finding guys without are actually doing this, which is great. But reaching out to multiple SDRs, kind of treating them as champions. And then if we know our team's hiring, like we're going to bring that to a hiring manager and say like, hey, this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. Like this is a great candidate. So taking the time to understand what hiring managers are looking for, they're definitely looking for coachable people. They're looking for people willing to learn, people who are hungry. And, this is kind of an underrated one I find, but if you're willing to work really well in a team, because you until you're kind of in role, you realize how much of a team play sales is. If you can demonstrate all of that early on, as well as kind of already doing the prospecting beforehand, like you're going to definitely stand out. And then from there, it's just saying the right things and then making sure closing interviews out for me was a huge one. So ending every interview with, hey, like, I know we had a great conversation today. Is there anything hesitations you have moving me forward? And if there are, I would love to vet that out. Hiring managers love that. So if you can get that process down really early on, fail a few times, which is fine. Like that's what it's for. Then eventually you'll get in a rhythm and you'll crush it.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. A lot of great nuggets there. And I'm curious too, maybe more on, the final round or late stage interview where you're doing a formal exercise. Obviously you had some marketing exposure, maybe some customer facing exposure as well, but this is your first time maybe doing a mock call or presentation. I'm not sure all the different exercises you went through, but if there's any advice or learnings that you'd give to the audience as well, it'd be a great time to share.
Absolutely. So for reference, guys, still in the course, there's Eric built a ChatGPT caller, which was amazing for me. So in my interview, they did provide an AI caller, but it was nowhere near as in depth as Eric. So Eric's will give you feedback on like Medic. Did you talk budget? Did you talk competitors? Maybe there was a nugget there you missed that could have dug more into pain. So for me, like you get a couple of practices at it just to kind of get your mind that, like I can get the product down, and then you can go higher, more difficult scenarios. Maybe they're happy with a provider and they're like, well, why should I switch over? Like little things like that. So when I went into my exercise, I've already done so many repetitions of different scenarios that on mine, they would say, hey, maybe timing's not right. So then you kind of already know, like, okay, yeah, I totally understand. When would that like be looking? So you already kind of have done it so many times that, when we're actually in the interview, nothing really surprises you. And what made it really good about the simulator was you can do like inbound, outbound. So you can do like if it's a complete cold call versus maybe they interacted with a webinar. And then that way, like, it kind of gets you prepared for every scenario in the interview where you don't freeze on the spot, like, oh, shoot, I didn't like go for this scenario. Like that part, like that was after I was in the course. And when that became available, like, jumped on it. And it takes you do so many repetitions that the fear of doing like a mock call just goes away. And then it kind of is just like another interview at that point.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, we preach this all the time, but even just saying it out loud and having a mechanism to just actually practice and call it a game time situation, or at least close to that, it does wonders as opposed to just sitting there in your mind. Even if you think you have it memorized, if you've never actually said it out loud, it's just the first time you do it. If it's game time interview, it's tough. At least it injects a lot of risk. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for a couple of interviews I had before higher levels, I'm a guy who I always come prepped for everything. So for me, I had like notes and I would kind of read them to myself or with a buddy. But it's definitely different that way because, you can have the perfect script and read certain value points. But if no one's like responding back to you in a way like a real life scenario, it just feels like you would come to an interview maybe and you have your script, you're ready. Maybe the hiring manager throws a curveball at you and you're like, your brain's kind of like, well, I didn't prep for this, right? So what do I say? And then if you're on a call with a prospect, like, if you freeze, like it's stuff like that, like practicing with a bot, even if it's a bot, like if it has programmed responses like, hey, maybe, budget's not right, or sorry, who is this? Little things like that, getting your brain used to having rejection and then kind of having how you overcome that was invaluable, super invaluable.
No, it's awesome, man. Tons of great nuggets here as well. Maybe kind of going towards a close. If you give any advice to call it your younger self or someone out there on the outside looking in, happy to give you the floor. And thanks again. There's a ton of great insights throughout the combo.
Yeah. You know what? When I was younger, definitely, because I would say like if university, it's hard to, you get the skills, I would definitely say to go into the job market. But for me anyway, there wasn't a lot of career exposure. So for me, I didn't really know industries really well or like salary potential. So definitely when I was younger, I would definitely maybe take more time looking into certain industries. Like I knew tech was something I wanted for a while. I just didn't really think it was possible, or at least wasn't really sure the path getting into it. So definitely taking that time to really understand like what you need to get in. And then also when I was younger, maybe having more time to develop the skill, like I definitely got lucky with my previous role that I had transferable skills going on, but then maybe at that time I got into tech sales earlier, who knows at that point. But most importantly, like when you have the time, if you have the time to really do the research on different industries, seeing maybe what niche, maybe it's like data analytics tech or marketing software or payroll per se, right? So like finding out where your niche is, like that also really helps too. Like if you're selling a product that brings genuine excitement to you, like prospects are gonna see that, and that definitely sets you over the edge later in your career.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. No, this has been jam-packed, tons of great advice. And I think those are the little things too. It's like, I feel like people generally know kind of what they need to do. But to your point, when you're getting to these final round interviews, when you're trying to make yourself stand out and what, at least on the outside looking in, appears to be a super competitive market, there's just a few small things that you really hit on that I feel like gets you in the top 10%, if not 5% right away, and makes you stand out through that entire process. But yeah, great conversation, Matt. Tons of great nuggets. Obviously excited for the result. If there's anything else you feel like you missed, feel free. But otherwise, thanks again for the time.
Yeah, no, thank you, Eric. Yeah, I think we touched on everything. One thing I'll preface and say to anybody thinking about the course, yeah, do your research, look at every part of it. It's a process. Also, don't get discouraged if I had a lot of rejections. I even got rejected on some first round interviews, and generally speaking, a lot of people say those are like the bird interviews, like, like how do you not make it on? But it prepares you also for the role too. Like if you take the time to even just have a few companies maybe say no, when you're in the role, like you're not going to take it personally whenever a prospect per se rejects you. And always, and I'll say this again, close your interviews out with, ending it off all the time. Is there any concerns? And if there's time, I'd love to address them. Every interview I've done that, the sales manager has looked at me like shocked almost and said, yeah, like that, I love this question. So do whatever your competition is not doing. And like, there shouldn't be any, like, you should be fine.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. The result speaks for itself. Congrats again, and really appreciate the time.
Yeah, likewise, Eric. Thank you.